Hey there, friends. It's Bill MacDonald. Welcome to May the Twos be with you for a short answer question. A lot of you are trying to figure out how to transition, or as I tell my students, transmission, because a car has a transmission to help you go from one place to another, and a transition helps you move from one idea to the other. So, for an, a question that's short answer, it has two parts. They give you a topic in the form of a question, okay? And the question has a certain idea that it asks about, and your students have to respond to that question with an idea that they can infer or be able to infer or read between the lines. So I'm going to use a combination of the binder that I give all the teachers at my trainings, the one of the folders from the class set of folders that comes with the training, the graphic organized studies from the training, and even a blank sheet of line paper that you can teach your students to use so that they can be held accountable for taking notes and brainstorming and doing strategies for a question on paper so that they can be more prepared to do exactly what you want them to do on the online test when it comes to April, regardless of grade level. So just to make sure we understand that once they look at the question about a certain topic, a who, what, when, where, why, which, or how, they're expected to be able to do what I call a teeter totter. What is the answer and the evidence? So I want you to think of the emergency room as the place to have your kids go because they're not going to do very well at the beginning on a concept that's open ended like this. So the E will be first, where you look at evidence that has anything to do with what the question is about. Then, using that evidence, you'll be able to actually R, respond to the question with complete sentences. And so we're going to use an acronym that's on the folder. W, what is the answer? W, sorry, W, where is the answer? And E, what is the evidence of your answer? And if you can do those two things, your teeter and your totter are going to be there. The answer and the evidence. But your kids are going to have to treat the questions that are open-ended like the emergency room, that they have to go to the evidence first that responds to the topic that's in the question, underline or highlight the evidence, and be able to answer the question using that evidence. So let me show you how to do that by taking you to one of my passages. So here is question number one from a fictional story, and I converted many of my reading passages already to online type formats so that the teachers that I work with can test as a hard copy, or you can test online, or you can test both. So here's question one. Read the question below carefully. All short answers will be in the form of a question with a question mark. Then enter your answer in the box provided. Keep in mind that for now that it'll be limited to 475 characters, not including spaces. Okay, you're not going to need all of these lines to answer a short answer, but some students want to kind of go evidence they get excited about evidence and they kind of give more than they really need to. as long as you have at least a couple of examples, examples, 2 or 3 of evidence that support your answer, then that's going to be enough to get the 2 points that are mentioned here in the parentheses. So it says, what can you infer, rubbing my fur, read between the lines about Jonathan, about how Jonathan feels? Okay, so my subject in the question is Jonathan. So I always make a little stick man about the subject. Feeling is his heart. What are his emotions at the beginning of the story? Okay, that's the where. And then they're more specific. They even tell you exactly where. So all of this could be highlighted on the online test. Support your answer, 1 point, with evidence from the story, 2 point. So a couple of ways that I'll show you. Let me show you on my folder. The upper left-hand corner does give you a very easy way to respond to short answer questions. There's class sets of these, and no, I would disagree with those of you who say that this is overwhelming. This, everything on this folder, top, bottom, front, back, is everything that I would need to know about all STAR tests by April, in the editing, the revising, the reading, and even in the other subjects when it comes to the constructed responses, they can only get one of these types of responses. So there's the short answer, the red light and the yellow light, and there's the extended response for both expository and argumentative, the red light, the yellow light, the green light, and then how you bring closure depending on what kind of student you're talking about, having transitions between. So this is the one we want to focus on. What is the prompt? They'll see that word whenever it says, whenever there's a short answer or an open-ended response, it'll say prompt, and it'll have a question, and it'll be about a certain topic. So that's the first red light. In other words, we said that's one of the lens of your glasses. Okay, the question and the answer have to relate to each other. So in order to get a 1, the answer has to relate to the question that's being asked. But like I said, you must go to the emergency room first, the E, find the evidence, so either with or without quotation marks. Tell me where it's at, if possible. Then you can give me the response, the answer to your question. And a 1 plus 1 equals a 2. And again, I show in my plan that the state does not care whether you use quotations or not. You can paraphrase, you can use the exact words, and you can have quotes or without quotes, as long as they see that the evidence is there that supports your answer and also responds to the topic. So the next thing I would teach you to have your students do is to say, okay, well, if I'm going to show my work, then on line paper, I would write question number 1. What is the question? Jonathan's feelings at the beginning. What is the answer? And I have to skip the answer because that is the response. I've got to go where, and I'm going to get evidence from the second sentence, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth. They're all going to be evidence. So pay attention to which sentences I eliminate from the evidence. And you can see that the second sentence is in past tense. The first sentence is not even about his feelings. The third sentence is a transition, and it's from the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth sentences that we're going to use our evidence. So I'm going to show it to you in a second, but you'll notice on the fourth sentence, it'll say that he's barely breathing, not saying a word. The fifth sentence, he has no idea what to expect. That means in his mind, he's basically sharing his thoughts with you here. He's not telling you his emotions here. He's showing them by the way he's acting. He can't even breathe. No words are coming out of his mouth, so there's no noise. Okay. So there, if you can imagine dialogue, I would push an X there because there's nothing being said. Okay. Only a sigh came out when his friend Jessica asked him if he was excited. So all of these would be examples of evidence that kind of show Jonathan's feelings in paragraph 1. So when I show that to you, then in the computer, they would fast forward. If you look at sentence 1, the line is the line is long. Nothing about Jonathan's feelings. Most of the time, Jonathan is pretty patient and like a class clown, laughing and joking around playfully with his friends. Well, patient, class clown, laughing, joking, those are all past tense. All of that happened before this story was joined. And so sometimes the test people will try to throw in details about emotions that have nothing to do with the current status. So your kids have to understand that in sentence 3, there's a transition to right here, right now, so we can see how he does feel at the beginning. So the highlighted parts are what we could use for evidence. He could barely breathe, hadn't said a word the entire time. This was his first time, no idea what to expect. When Jessica asked him action, if he was excited, reaction, he tried to open his mouth, but nothing came out except a sigh. So that's my evidence. And so I'm thinking, man, why would somebody be doing this? Um, the positive kid that we normally see has turned into some negative. What do you mean by negative? Well, when you can't breathe and you don't even say anything, he doesn't have any idea what to expect. Those are all signs of fear. So things that you do when you're scared. And so I kind of printed something that I want to show you inside the binder. There's a tell me how you feel for each emotion, 12 different emotions. Your kids can write some synonyms, and the one we're talking about today is scared. Then there's a collage of things that different people and animals do when they're scared. And then there's a third section that says, show me. What exactly are people doing? What are they saying? What are they thinking? How is their body language? How are they reacting? And basically, what they're doing there is, if they write phrases that say "show me," "don't tell me," your kids can accumulate. What they're trying to learn is how to understand a character, and this comes when you order the binder. And for this month's special, anytime you order the class sets of folders and the graphic organizer, this binder full of these cool 20 pages or so will come free with some monkeys to help you distinguish between the quantity and the quality of ideas. And so basically, I want to know about this character named Jonathan. Everything that could possibly be asked about him is here. And so, one thing you might think about is before I can understand characters in a fiction story, in a poem, in a literary nonfiction, or in a play, I probably should teach my students how to analyze and understand themselves and each other. So, step 1 would be that. And probably step 0 would be you, the teacher, saying, this is a little bit about who I am, all about me, kind of like. And that way you're doing a self character analysis. And so there's another page that has full color with high vocabulary that talks about different states of minds or states of beings that people have. And the one that we're focusing on today is their feelings and their emotions. And so they come with pictures because these words are kind of high level. And so if I was to say which one would fit Jonathan at this point, probably the lower left one there. He's kind of nervous. He's kind of anxious. And so when I answer the question, because of all the things that he was doing, I could use one of those words, uh, fearful, anxious, nervous, terrified, petrified, unsure, worried. A lot of those things are describing who he is. So those are just a couple of pages that come with the binder. So then I could either start answering the question on the lines there. Oh, Jonathan, at this point in the story, is very terrified and worried about what's going to happen on the ride. That's probably what would come out of my pencil, out of my keyboard, because that's what came out of my mouth. Then you use the evidence, starting in the fourth sentence. He could barely breathe and wasn't even saying a word. In sentence five, he shares his thoughts where he had no idea what to expect. So his mind was probably wandering. And the sixth sentence, only a sigh came out when his friend Jessica asked if he was excited. And so that's my answer and the evidence in spoken form. But I want to show you one more thing that comes uh, when you're doing reading. This top part is when you're in my revising graphic organizer, when you're trying to understand a whole paragraph or a whole passage, then I would teach your students how to draw their hand. And because this the first paragraph, paragraph number one, has six sentences, all I have to do is draw a hand with six fingers. And so I would teach my students to have their own homemade graphic organizer. And so we've numbered all of these little fingernails by sentences. And so basically you can color code, because when you order the folders and the graphic organizers, you get that binder that I showed you, and you get about three of each of these monkeys that come in six different colors. And the cool thing is they look like S's for sentences, S, or sections, or summaries, or sum of the passage, or a selection, or a stanza, a scene. And on the bottom there, the a story, and you can't see it, but it says specific supporting sentences. So if this is the topic sentence, then all of these other sentences are the specific supporting sentences. So the cool thing for this month only, for $50, including the shipping, you get 25 of these that have the reading and the revising, the editing, the extended, the short answer. There's a graphic on this 4-page document. There's really neat graphic organizers to help with every single part of the reading test. You'll get 25 of those advanced 11 by 17 folders. You'll get this all digitally as well, and you'll get that binder that I showed you with the character analysis, the emotions, the opinions, basically the short answer scoring guide, the extended essay scoring guide, and lots of really cool things I think that you'll really enjoy. And you even get a little bag of uh, these monkeys to help you break down. And so, as we mentioned, the first and second sentence were not about Jonathan's emotions, but the third sentence was a transition to him barely saying anything, no words coming out, because uh, it was his first time, and his thoughts, he wasn't knowing what to expect, so he's probably kind of worried. And the purple monkey being that action reaction when Jessica asked him if he was excited. He didn't even know how to react. All he could do was open his mouth, and a little sigh came up. So, with all that information, your students can write out on their paper that I showed you, a rough draft, and then they can go to a the online version that will be right there, and they'll be able to type their response. And so I'll if I pretend like you don't know whether I'm using the hand graphic organizer that I used, or if I'm using the notes that I took on my line paper for strategies. And if you watched my post, you saw my post the other day on Saturday, I mentioned the importance of students showing strategies on paper, whether they're taking a test online or on paper, and that those strategies should count for anywhere between 10 to 20% of the grade, even if the kids get 100. So I'm going to type my response here and pretend like it's my actual online computer response. All I'm doing is using Zoom, but basically it's the same concept. I did a lot of my strategies on paper. You can highlight here as well, but I've already done all that. So I'm just going to answer the question. So I want to make sure for those of you who have kids who really struggle, you can say in paragraph 1, Jonathan feels very terrified at the beginning of the story, period. Okay. And that's kind of using the acronym WOW, which is on my folder. What original words from the question can I use to help kids who struggle with answering a question? The second wow would be, what other words could I use so that I could not have to use the same exact words, not restate the question. Restating the question sounds to me like you're asking the question again. I already know what the question is. I want to know the answer. How does Jonathan feel in the beginning of the story in paragraph 1? And so I'm going to state my answer, the one that I verbalized to all of you. At the very beginning of the story, from the selection Splash Mountain, I believe there were some ellipses there. Terror turns terrific. Let's see if I can space just a little bit more here. Oh, Jonathan, up there to spell Jonathan correct. Make sure kids do that, that they don't misspell words that are right there in front of them. Was feeling extremely worried going to put two things, and frightened. What I was thinking in my head was, what words, what original words could I use? Because if everybody's always using the same vocabulary all the time, scared, then the reader has to eat your words, because there's a saying that I say in my training, the reader is the eater of your words. Well, don't make them eat the same words over and over in your essay. And from one student to the next, make sure your kids think of those acronym wows that you can answer in lots of different ways. Okay. So then now you need the where. And so that was what was the answer? W. W. Where am I going to share with you uh, the evidence? Where is it from? And then I'm going to give you the E evidence. W. W. E. What is the answer? Where can I go to prove it to the reader? And what is the evidence? Okay. It shows in sentence, looking at my notes, or that E, because I already used Jonathan, I don't need to tell the reader Jonathan's name again because he didn't change to a different person from one sentence to the next. So that he was barely able to breathe, and that I'm going to have a combined compound predicate, or speak. Because it said that nothing could come out of his mouth. And right now I'm paraphrasing and I don't need to use quotation marks. Um, he was I'll say he seemed a little worried, and I want to make sure that you know why I said that with my keyboard. Uh, because it was his first time on the ride. He didn't know what. Anytime you're doing something new, you are going to have a little worry. And then that last sentence, even when his friend Jessica asked him if he was excited on uh, the last sentence of paragraph, where an explanation, the only sound that was able to come out of his mouth was a sigh. And so when you sigh, that could be tired. Sigh could be that you just drank something. A sigh could be you trying to get control over your breathing because you're having a panic attack. He may have been having a panic attack. Now, I'm going to tell you that this is probably more than your students need because I have clearly answered the question. He's worried and frightened based on the showing that he does. And then I established the evidence. So if you're in the CREST training, you already received this PDF document and um, you've been getting all of these pages little by little as I've been adding. And so if you were to use color coding, I would highlight the question red, Jonathan's feelings at the beginning. I would highlight the answer red. That first sentence would be in red. And then the rest of this, all of these last sentences would be in yellow. because I want to connect to the idea of a traffic light. And so this is how I would teach it using just two letters of the alphabet, a W and sorry, and an E. What is the answer? The box. Where is the evidence? And what is the evidence that you can present to me in, like I said, 2 or 3 sentences usually is enough for a short answer. Uh, don't have your kids go crazy with 475 characters because what will probably happen is they're gonna use more evidence. Like if I try to use sentence 1 or 2, that was sentence 1 was just about the line, which had nothing to do with Jonathan's feelings, and sentence 2 and 3 were only about Jonathan's feelings before the part that they're asking about. How is he feeling at this present time about the ride that he was doing? So if you have any questions, feel free to email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com. I would love to come work with your students while you observe. If you're one of those visual learners, uh, I work with students in middle school and high school, and usually in 1 hour to 2 hour increments. And then elementary, we work in either 2 or 3 hour sections, or we can work with teachers all day, or we can have a day with teachers and a day with students, whatever works for you. Um, the cool thing is all the materials that you see me using on my videos always come with the training. Um, Even if you just order the folders and the graphic organizers, like I mentioned, I'm going to send you that binder for free along with the monkeys this month. If you're watching this, you can email me for the link to that, or you can message me and I'll send you the link, and I'll have that on sale the holiday season for October, for November, for Thanksgiving, and for December for Christmas. I was really saddened to hear that many of you do not have adequate resources to teach uh, not just reading, but any of your subjects. And so I want to make sure if you're one of those teachers who absolutely has no money or resources, you message me, you email me, and I'll make sure that I take care of you. God has really blessed me, and I want to be able to bless you, and I'll be able to help you with some digital files and some uh, some videos that will kind of give you some guidance. For those of you who God has blessed you, then you can in turn bless me by helping me support my business and being able to keep helping teachers and students by either bringing me in for a training with your teachers, purchasing the CREST trainings where you get to watch all uh, of my strategies and you get passages all year long in online and digital format. Uh, you can just purchase the materials. Like I said, right now they're $50 for all of November and December, including shipping. 25 folders, 25 graphic organizers, the cool binder that I was showing you, and about 18 to 25 monkeys in 6 different colors to kind of help you with looking at the quantity and the quality of different details and the type of details that are inside that selection. God bless you guys. If you loved this video, then share or tag your reading and writing teacher friends. Subscribe in my YouTube page. Uh, Make sure you email me if you have any questions or message me if you have a specific. Some of you are in the CREST training, so I'm willing to skip around and do other questions in this passage that you got sent already last week. So just let me know and I'd be happy to do them out of order, but unless one of you tells me, I'm going to keep going from one through whatever until we finish this passage. But we'll practice all of the different online formats, even multiple choice, but we'll be mainly practicing constructed, short answer, and our last one will be an extended essay response using this passage with a fiction story. So God bless you guys and take care.